Brazil's President Luiz Inacio Lula da Silva has launched a direct and explosive attack on US power, slamming Washington's bombing of Iran and accusing it of behaving like a global bully. Speaking in Sao Paulo, Lula warned that the world cannot be dictated by one nation acting on its own will, framing the US-Israel strikes as a dangerous escalation that is shaking global stability and triggering economic fallout far beyond the Middle East.
And now, we are caught off guard with the United States bombing Iran. I never asked anyone to agree with the Iranian regime. I myself do not. Fine. But we must learn to respect the self-determination of peoples. We must learn to respect the territorial integrity of countries. We cannot allow someone to think they own the world and wake up in the morning saying, I am going to take Greenland. I am going to take the Panama Canal. I am going to take Cuba. I am going to take Venezuela. I am going to take everything.
Lula didn't stop at geopolitics. He linked the war directly to economic pain back home, warning that the Iran conflict is now hitting Brazilian citizens in their pockets. Fuel prices are surging, diesel costs are rising, and inflation fears are growing, despite government attempts to cushion the blow through subsidies and tax relief measures.
We made the decision to present another proposal so that we could subsidize importers and thus not raise prices. And even so, prices went up. And look at how serious it is. Not only did the price of diesel go up, but also alcohol, which has nothing to do with the war in Iran. The price of gasoline went up, which had not yet increased. Because raising prices means that in this country there are criminals who want to make money even from their mother's funeral, even from the hunger of the poor, even from the misery of others.
In a broader geopolitical swipe, Lula also questioned the legitimacy of the global power structure itself, targeting the United Nations Security Council. He argued that the current system remains stuck in a post-World War II reality, dominated by a handful of powerful nations, while the rest of the world remains sidelined from key decisions on war and peace.
The UN Security Council was created in 1945. Those who are part of the Council are those who won World War II. And what about the United States and Russia and China and France and the United Kingdom? The rest of the world does not participate. But these 5 countries, which are permanent members of the Security Council, should meet to prevent war.
Lula's remarks are not isolated. They are part of a much larger geopolitical shift now taking shape. From Latin America to Eurasia, major powers are increasingly converging against what they see as unchecked US dominance, with BRICS nations stepping up their criticism as the Iran conflict widens. Russia and China have now launched a coordinated diplomatic offensive against the United States and Israel following the killing of a top Iranian leader, reinforcing a broader BRICS-backed pushback against Western military action. Beijing has reacted with unusually strong language, signaling a clear shift in tone as it directly challenges Israel's policy of targeting Iranian officials.
China is shocked by this statement. We have been opposed to the use of force in international relations, and the killing of Iran's national leaders and attacks on civilian targets are even more unacceptable.
China is now positioning itself as a stabilizing force, calling for an immediate halt to military operations and urging all sides to step back before the situation spirals beyond control. Through its diplomatic outreach in the Middle East, Beijing is emphasizing dialogue, negotiation, and respect for sovereignty, while warning that continued escalation could trigger a broader regional crisis.
He urged the parties concerned to immediately cease military operations and avoid the situation from descending into an uncontrollable stage, called for resolving issues through dialogue and negotiation, and addressing differences through political and diplomatic means.
Moscow, meanwhile, has taken an even sharper line, openly blaming Washington and its allies for triggering a chain reaction that is now expanding across regions. The Kremlin says it had long warned that any force-based scenario involving Iran would lead to widespread destabilization, and now argues that those warnings are materializing in real time. Russia is framing the situation not as an isolated military escalation, but as the beginning of a much wider geopolitical and economic crisis.
If you recall, quite some time ago at various levels, including President Putin, we said that the development of a force-based scenario around Iran would lead to destabilization in the region. We are now witnessing this extreme destabilization throughout the region, the expansion of the geography of hostilities.
The Kremlin is also highlighting the immediate global fallout, particularly in energy markets, where prices are surging amid fears of prolonged instability. Russia says the impact is already being felt worldwide, with supply chains, energy routes, and economic stability coming under pressure. By linking the Iran conflict directly to global economic consequences, Moscow is reinforcing its argument that the actions of the United States and Israel are not contained, but are instead triggering a systemic shock.
We also see destabilization of global energy markets. These are the consequences that the whole world is now feeling, including the Russian Federation.
Despite that mounting criticism, the United States is showing no signs of stepping back, defending its campaign as precise, deliberate, and intensifying with each passing day.
The last job anyone in the world wants right now? Senior leader for the IRGC, or besiege. Temp jobs, all of them. And to borrow a page from Admiral Ernest King in World War II, we've decided to share the ocean with Iran. We've given them the bottom half.
What is now emerging is no longer just a regional crisis. From Brazil to Beijing to Moscow, a broader alignment is taking shape, challenging Washington's role and questioning the balance of global power. The message is becoming increasingly clear. This is no longer America's world alone.